Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special episode of the Visionary Circle podcast. It's me and my lovely co-host, Mr. Sergio, and we are really digging deep into our trick bag to get you some of the most unique guests with the most unique stories. With us today is a very old and good friend of mine.
Hey, I'm not that old.
An old friendship.
We go back a long ways. I'm not old. I'm young.
It's an old friendship, but a young soul. And it's a gentleman that has really inspired visuals by Leo as we know it today. The first time I picked up a photo camera was because of this gentleman here. With us today is the Vagabond. With us today is Bond, the Vagabond, Mr. Joel Lyman.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being with us today, man. This is very, very special.
My pleasure.
Yes. I know you so well because I met Joe years back at Huntington Beach at the pier. I think it was like 11 p.m. and walking around, always looking for inspiration because this is before I had an LLC. This is before Visuals by Leo was an official name. It was just like my old Instagram. I was just doing gigs for fun. I didn't have a business. This is when it was
Dental by Leo.
Exactly, when in the dental world at the time. And I think everything started after the day we met. That's when everything rolled out. Me becoming into documentary style filmmaking. A lot of people notice that I do a lot of interviews in my work, and every part of my style, every part of my the way I do my filmmaking and photography, there is a vestige of something I learned from Joe. A lot of the street photography that I do at Orange Circle every few weeks, if you follow me on Instagram, you see that I do these street photo sessions for free for people. That is verbatim taken from Joe's style, and it's really been it's had a huge impact on my life, but that is just the artistic side and the business side. I think the bigger impact lies in the way you live your life. If there's somebody who has broken free from the matrix, as they call it, somebody who has broken free from the shackles of society, it's going to be Joe. Tell us about your philosophy on how you live your life.
Oh, man. I mean, it just changed. My philosophy was I'm a dad. That's the only thing that defined me for the last 20 years. That's all I cared about. You know, from the minute I woke up to the minute I went to sleep, all I cared about in the world was being a dad. And now, not that I'm done, you're never done being a dad. Like, I'm looking at my phone in case there's an emergency. You know, he's 20, but you never stop being a dad. But he's grown and he doesn't need me anymore. He's self-sufficient. And so I don't know, you're catching me at kind of a funny time. I'm like in a transitional phase right now where I'm kind of looking for the answer to that question, you know?
Yes.
And going back to the day we met though, I think the spark that you felt or that was ignited the night we met was you're seeing somebody who's doing something, right? We live in a world where people, and that's even just a few years ago there's hardly any TikTok. You know, there's a lot less representation of people out there doing. Everybody now has a channel. Everybody now has something. Everybody is basically a producer of their own little TV show, right? But even just six years ago, that wasn't the reality we lived in. And so to see somebody out on the street kind of just doing something, I think you needed to see that to make the move, right? You were just going to be the dentist and give in to and live in the matrix, you know, eat your breakfast and lunch and dinner and be a dentist and have your soul not be to be fulfilled. And you saw somebody, and like I said, we met just at the perfect intersection of that time in our lives, right? And that's how fickle fate is. If we had met a year earlier, it wouldn't have done anything to you.
Yes.
Right? If we'd met a year later, you might have been too deep into it, you know, and you have too many clients, or you might have been engaged or something like that. And the hell you're going to make that decision to leave all that when you have somebody to care for, right? So you meet just at the right time, and that's how tricky life is. You make a left instead of a right, you know, and that your life is totally different. So yeah, I just picked up and 6 months ago sold my house and everything in it, and 3 of my 4 vehicles, and moved 7,000 miles away to take away the safety net for my son, but also to find a new purpose in life. Because that's the truth is like, not that I'm rock bottom, I'm not anything like that, but I am without purpose right now. And so I know that the medicine I need is to go out into the world and struggle. Because the truth is I haven't really struggled much in my life. Nearly as much as most people. Everything I've ever wanted, I got. You know, I got a beautiful, brilliant, strong, I'm not, son? Ooh, damn it. I told myself I wasn't going to do that.
Dude, let it out. Let it out. Yeah.
So cliche of me. I'm a crier. But I got everything I wanted, you know? I got my son. I said I'm going to be a photographer. I got to be a photographer. I said I'm going to be a chef. I'm going to be a chef. Everything just kind of falls in my lap. And while that's fun and nice and easy, it's a bitchy thing to complain about, but it's valid. Is you should have some struggle to get what you want, you know? And everything's just happened too easy for me in my life. And I'm trying to force that struggle. And I did it in a way where there's no coming back from it. There's no home to come back to. You know, there's no motorcycle anymore I can just zoom off on and look cool or whatever, you know? I took away all the safety nets for myself to guarantee I wasn't going to just, I guess I'm a photographer again, you know? Because it's so easy to make money as a photographer or even as a chef. And I don't want easy anymore. You know, I've had easy my whole life. And I know, you know, it's so funny coming from Istanbul to California. The first night I got back, it couldn't have been a more beautiful day in November, you know? And I think, am I that much of a weenie that I'm going to complain it's this perfect day? But it's a valid complaint that adversity is why you grow. It's how you grow. And I think there's something about the culture in Southern California where when the highest ascension of success is being a beach bum, you know, like you're a CEO, but you get to lay in your board shorts and just sit there and talk about people riding bikes buying their bikes. That's not culture, or that's not the culture I want, you know? And you know, I've complained about it a lot, but it is the culture. It's not the culture I want, but I've been here for the last 20 years because my son was here and his extended family's here. I wasn't going to take him away. But I had to realize that for years, I haven't really fit in here. I didn't want this life. I want to help a neighbor shovel their snow out of their driveway. I want to have a tornado warning or something. I want something other than perfection 365 days a year, or having it rain 1/4 of an inch just to prove we're on Earth, you know, and you technically have rain. So yeah, it catch me kind of a funny moment right now because I'm completely, totally lost. But that's what I asked for right now. I knew I had to do a hard reset to get the desire and the addiction to the sun and the money falling from the sky out of my system, you know? So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Wow. You know, sometimes I think about like, man, we need to have like a pre-podcast to the podcast because I get to know the people that are here. Now, I've only met you today, only not even an hour. And you're very fascinating to me. And one of the things that I love about still getting to know Leo is, like I said before we started, is Leo is a puzzle that's still being worked on, like everybody else. But I don't know some of those pieces to the puzzle. And as I'm getting to know you and how you guys are talking about each other, it sounds like you are a big piece of his puzzle. And then him meeting you at the beach is very, and I just read this book, very alchemist, like the style of it. Because again, he's just walking around. What is he doing at 11 p.m. in Huntington Beach and by the pier? I have no idea why he would be there. But the fact that he was, and then he met you, and now you guys have shown me like some of the most amazing stories that you guys have done together is so like it was meant to be kind of deal. And then just getting to know you again, like the people that are listening, I think one of our biggest goals on our podcast is, why is this person so fascinating to us? And then we want to show that fascination to our people as well. And again, getting to know you has been very eye-opening, and you're very wise. You're also an author. And you forgot to say that. And so I guess, you know, you say that you feel like you didn't struggle as much, but what's the most struggle that you feel like you have had to deal with?
Oh, I mean, I've had a lot of pain in my life.
Okay. Like we're all formed into this person, right? Yeah. Like what helped you become that?
The reason I was a good photographer, you know, listen, everybody has their struggles. And like we're saying, the way we met, life is so fickle, or fate is so fickle. There's people like Eminem who have a Munchausen's mom who was raised in a ghetto, but he just has the right type of mind to take those ingredients and make a Michelin star dish, which is a career, right? Where other people take those same ingredients and just beat the hell out of themselves and become nothing, or just hurt other people, or die straight to the bottom, right? What made me a good photographer is that I was, people say I'm too mean to myself, but I was extremely unattractive for a 20-year chunk of my life from an undiagnosed illness. And when you're unattractive during your formative years, like 13 to 30 something, those are the years you're supposed to be sort of sexually viable to other people, to show up on girls' radar. Now, granted, I did get married, during that time, so I wasn't really single for a big chunk of that. But there's still something about walking around being invisible to the opposite sex. And it like I said, it could destroy you. But what I decided to do is sit back and observe, because I wasn't a threat to women. I spent almost all my time with women. And in a way where I was like a fly on the wall to conversations that was privy to conversations no man who was a typical threat to them would ever hear. So I became like this like sort of genius for like the secret life of women. And so I was able to turn that into being a photographer, where I'd get some girl who was 15 to 22 and they'd come in shaking like a leaf and they didn't like their nose, they didn't like this part of their arm. And I could undo it in 5 minutes, 10 minutes at tops. And I think I could even change like my body chemistry to just be somebody who is not just non-threatening, but also make them feel extremely beautiful, extremely comfortable in their own skin, and flip them. And that's also why I was so meticulous, because I didn't want to take 100 frames before I could show them a good picture. I'd meticulously set up my lights and go click, show them the camera, and they just couldn't believe what they were seeing. And I had them at that point, and it was like, warm knife through butter at that. They would just do anything I asked. And so I took that pain of all those 20 years of being nothing much to look at, and I could identify in other people what they didn't like about themselves, and whatever it is, how my mind was formed, I could undo it in them,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it sucked being ugly. It's not fun being ugly, but
like you said, like you created a formula to help other people too, and try to remove that insecurity from them and show them that they are beautiful, and
and then later on too, when I became a father, I wrote down basically everything about my life being a son and a future father since I was 18 years old for my son. And when he started going through his teenage years and there's teenagery stuff happening, I had already given him hundreds of pages that discussed this area of his life. And to have him skip over all that, damn, I mean, if I had just done that, never been a photographer, never been a chef, never been an author, if I had just been able to take away all that awkwardness and pain from that era of his life that maybe unconsciously you just kind of let it happen as a parent because you're too busy doing this or that, I would be satisfied. If I did nothing else in my life just to have his skin be good and feed him good food and give him philosophy and have him skip those awkward teenage years like I suffered so bad through, if nothing else, I could die tomorrow and be happy. It was... And and in the end, I'm grateful for those years, because I might have, if I had been good looking, I probably wouldn't be the father that I was. I definitely wouldn't be the photographer I was. I might have been one of those hoary photographers who takes advantage of their subjects, So in the end, we're all given a pretty messy list of ingredients for this life. Nobody gets out unscathed, but that's why it's so important to be healthy. So your mind and your body can do the right thing with these ingredients rather than have them crush you. We're all suffering.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to try to give ourselves enough peace and love and kindness to ourselves to get everything in order so we can be a benefit to the world and our kids, mostly our kids.
So having you here on the pod, like, for me, because I did meet you a little bit more and we spoke about it, I'm looking at you as someone that has a lot of wisdom. A lot of wisdom that maybe I've always wondered. And me not growing up with a dad, me dealing with stuff also in high school. I'm sure there's a lot of kids that dealt with all that stuff.
Well, do you know where it came from though? I know the answer.
Okay.
While other guys are out there asking girls out and figuring out how life works, I was just in a corner observing for years. And I just was just outside. I was funny but not good looking. So I was cool kid adjacent. So I had so much free space in my mind because I wasn't clouded with trying to like be in it. I could observe. And it's really amazing when nobody's afraid of you. And you're not a threat to anybody, but you're there. People are just all the knowledge comes out, all the answers about everything comes out, and you just have to sit and listen.
Yeah,
and pay attention.
Yeah. So, I guess what I'm trying to get at also is that because I see you as a person that just is, I don't have a clear direction of where we're going with the pod. I just want to ask you freely, like some questions. Because like you said, like your photography journey is an amazing one. It's an amazing story. We didn't get into the whole chef thing, but I'm sure you have some awesome stories about that as well. And your book sounds amazing. So I guess, but the question that I wanted to ask had nothing to do with those things. Is if someone is right now like dealing with something like that in their high school years, and they're going through that whole like they don't love each other and all that. And I know we can talk about it a lot. Is there something at the top of your head that you might be able to have to kind of help them out?
Without your parents providing that for you, it's rough. I've always said that your parents are supposed to be the ones who are hardwired to love you unconditionally. And when they don't, that creates a wound in our soul that puts you way behind the eight ball, right? But you're never hopeless, but you just have a little bit higher hill to climb than most people. Because here's this person who is supposed to run in a burning building for you or protect you or give you knowledge. And, if you don't have that at all, or you have somebody who prefers the alcohol more than you, or prefers other women more than you, or prefers their job more than you, that just creates these little wounds in your soul, right? So then you hit high school, you haven't been taught anything, you haven't been taught to love yourself, you haven't been shown, it's rough. But there's, every great artist is born from pain. Every great piece of music is born from pain and suffering. And so maybe the answer is to just go in your room and learn something for 2 or 3 years and emerge some rock star, fill your brain with, maybe just skip all the pressure of going to the parties or expecting anything, disappear in your room and emerge a genius, find one friend. That's all you need is one. This idea of you need 700 friends or 1 million people following you on TikTok is such BS. One friend. If I had had one friend the last 5 months, everything about the last 5 months of my life would have been different. I really have come back from this trip really appreciating companionship more than anything, beyond anything else. So I would say if you don't look so great, or if society isn't embracing you like you would hope they would, or you see somebody online who appears to maybe not look as good as you, or not be as smart as you, or not be as talented as you, but somehow they're getting reward and you're not, forget it. Forget about it. Stop comparing. Just go in your room and become a genius at something. Hang out with that one friend, really have each other's back, have like mini camaraderie of like a mini platoon going to war with society, and just maybe teach each other, both learn something, come out is like being able to sing or just know something better than anybody else. And then you'd be surprised, especially the difference between like 14 and 17 or 15 and 18. Those are two completely, like, you remember you're 15, somebody who's 18 was like, you can't even comprehend their life. Yeah. 2-3 years is enough to go into your room at 15 and emerge senior year is the coolest person there is in the school, because you just shred at something. Or even if it's something weird like chess or Rubik's Cube or whatever it is, most people don't do anything. They just appear to know how to get along without causing too much attention on themselves, right? It's like, I remember thinking when I was the biggest loser in the world, how did everybody else get the handbook that I didn't? How do they know what to say to girls? How do they know how to dress? Nobody told me anything. But it turns out you grow up and you realize all they knew how to do was pretend. They don't actually know anything. They just don't show their confusion as much as I do, right? And so stop comparing, find one friend and just get amazing at something, something, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. And every 3 years you get to reinvent your whole life.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the toughest thing was when you're 14, time is relative. So summer goes on forever. Each year goes on forever. It's gonna be 100 years before I get my license. But when you get to my age, a summer's a blink, right? So you don't realize how much time you have. Scientifically, you have more time than we do at this age, right? So take that time and just invest in yourself and reinvent yourself. If society has told you you're something, go into your room and become something else. Like go into cocoon and emerge as an amazing rock star butterfly,
Yeah. It's amazing advice.
I love that. That hit home, man, for real. I think me too. I share that sensation of not fitting in different phases of my life, and I did ask these questions of how can I develop an edge? How can I have a way, not necessarily in, but a way out? Like not into society, or not into high school. I don't want to fit in the cliques in high school, but I want to feel that I've made it out of this. Kind of like, how they say stem cells, they're like, they can turn into any type of cell in your body. Yeah. I was a stem cell, and it's like, I have the potential to be anything, and I want to become something at the end of the day. I don't want to remain a stem cell.
Well, that's the first step, is actually having a goal.
Yeah.
Right? Believing that you are worth becoming something. A lot of people just don't feel like they're worth anything. Why even try? Just melt into the ground, right? That's actually the first step, is thinking you're worth, because I always say, if you have a job and you hate your boss, and they ask you to stay 5 extra minutes to do whatever, it's like, ugh. But if you love your boss, it's a non-issue, right? It's the same thing with yourself. If you hate yourself, push-ups, jogging, studying, any investment in yourself is a insurmountable task. If you love yourself even just a little bit, okay, I'll invest myself in a little bit of pain or discomfort because I'm worth it, right? That's actually the most important step, is finding a way to believe that you're worth. Because everything good is tough.
Yeah.
Everything good is tough. If you don't like yourself, it's going to be tougher to improve your life.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to think you're the greatest thing in the world. You just need to think that you're worth surviving. That's how low the bar is.
Wow.
Yes.
To have some sort of growth. I'm worth surviving. So if I'm going to survive, I might as well make a better version of me. And this is the hard pill to swallow in this very tender generation. It's not easy. Nothing good is easy. Mediocrity is easy, right? Greatness is always going to be difficult and terrifying and painful. But if you like yourself a little bit, then you can forge through that.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. I also want to paint a picture for our viewers of kind of the time I would spend with Joe. Would be like, he would do this thing where every Saturday night he would go to BJ's. That's like right on the corner. If you take the Huntington Beach Pier all the way inland, I think the first or second light, one block, you'll be at a corner of BJ's. And he would do street photography there, but it wasn't your traditional street photography. It was this like ancient film camera with a Frankenstein back of a Polaroid. And he wouldn't give the pictures to people. He would take them, and he wouldn't take them for everybody. There was certain criteria or stories that he looked for. And it was very fascinating to me as an up and coming artist, as to what is visually interesting to you. And that's when I first learned about shadows, like the most basic thing, like, how they say shoot from the shadow side. I learned that from Joe, but in a much more, with a much stronger foundation of what is in the shadows, what stories lie in the shadows.
And you create the shadows to fall where you want them to be. You be proactive. It's so funny to me watching people who, and I know I'm a snob, but people who hold their camera like this, and snap, and rather than this, I know so many people that go out and hope to get something good. They go out without a vision, and they're being paid, and they're going. The client gets to tell them, we're going to do this at noon on a Tuesday, in open sunlight, and they're okay, and they go out hoping to get something good. That's insane to me. Have a vision, see that vision through and say, no, we have to do it at 4 p.m. in this location because the light's going to be coming from here and the shadow's coming from here and it'll be orange instead of white and blah, whatever. But have a vision and see that through. Because again, stumbling upon a great photo that's 1,000 frames into it that you have no idea how to recreate, it can't feel as good. It just can't.
Absolutely.
So being intentional is everything.
I think that's the difference too between somebody that is in it because they love it versus somebody that's just there to get a paycheck or whatever. Yeah.
I think beyond getting it paid, I think people just want to say, I'm a photographer.
I see.
I've seen so many people who buy a camera and 2 weeks later say headshots.
Right. Right.
What?
What do you mean?
It takes years to learn how to deal with somebody who has this type of skin or this type of body or this type of nose or whatever, you know? And to me, it's cruel to go out and just experiment on somebody's self-esteem.
Yeah, that's why there's a lot of days and this behind the scene kind of stuff where I travel to locations that I've never been and I wait until like that sunset hour and just try to see where it's going to be at and where the location is going to be good to shoot towards.
That's the only time you'll go there.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're
either that or sunrise. And not a lot of people want to do sunrise.
I mean, noon is fine if you're in shade. Noon's the best.
You
time.
have to know what to do around that time. There is a way to do it. You're in shade, you bring your lights, you balance the background, blah, blah, blah. It's not over. But that's, like you said,
again,
it's years.
You're caring more about the title, I'm a photographer, I'm getting paid, than how is this person going to feel when they leave?
Right.
Right? And that has to come first. You have to really care about how is this person going to leave feeling prettier or more valuable or terrible about themselves.
Right.
And if you let people leave feeling awful about themselves, man, I don't know what to say. I mean, you got your $150 for your mini session, which I can't stand that term either. I'm actually, listen, I'm going to try to not be negative. I've had a really rough last few months. I'm still healing a little bit. Mini session is a fine term to use.
I don't know. I mean, I think the people that do get like offended by that is probably sort of insecurity about themselves about it. I don't know.
I'm the old guy. Listen, here's the truth. In 2002, I replaced the film photographers who wouldn't switch over to digital.
Right.
And a few years ago, I got replaced by the people who had overexposed photos that I couldn't do that. I couldn't, this loose accidental style, which became the trend.
Yeah.
I can't even do that if I tried.
Yeah.
And that became the trend. So I got phased out. I'm not bitter about it, but it still baffles me.
Yeah.
You want something that's overexposed and with a tree coming right behind somebody's head.
Exactly.
But when that becomes what just is, then that's the new standard. Right. And now my perfectly lit, really gorgeously balanced photos are like, that's like, it's like the people I remember when I replaced, they would want these really formal sets where people wearing gowns on like a big red couch, going like this. That's how I'm viewed now by the overexposed people. I see.
Right? Yeah. So right now it's blurry photos, by the way.
I will never understand.
I know. I don't get it either.
Good-looking girl in front of a thing or a trash can. What is it about that dumpster that made you feel it was worth that frame of film? It boggles my mind so hard. Like going on these photo walks, I went on one photo walk and people saw a mailbox and they all crowded around the mailbox. I'm like, what am I missing? Right. What do I not see in that mailbox? And they're all clamoring around this mailbox or a trash can or a dumpsters are huge. Yeah. What?
Interesting.
What is it? But I don't get it. But I'm the old guy now.
Nah, I'm the old guy too. I wouldn't get it either.
Listen, I'm making an effort to be positive, so it's all fine. Dumpsters are beautiful.
I love that you mentioned your awareness of where your discomfort comes from. I love that you mentioned that. Like you feel this discomfort. It's very human-like. It's not perfect. Yeah. But you're aware of where it comes from, and I feel like awareness is super important.
I don't want to be negative. I've been people. This is what they say, not what I say. But I'm sort of the levity usually. Because I have a great life. Other people sort of orbit into my life to feed off a little bit of that positivity, and I've dipped a little bit. I think it's impossible not to dip when you're lost in the world. So I'm giving myself some grace, but I don't want to be. I don't want to let the sadness or the struggle take a grip onto my life. So I'll catch myself when I start to rip on the trash can photography.
The way I look at it is like, everybody has their own thing, whatever it is they're doing. Even a trash can needs a photographer to take photos of. You know what I mean?
Though?
Like, but
do they?
But at the end of the day, like, is it hurting me? No.
Right.
You know? So it's like, take the photo of the
me.
trash, man. I'm going to go have lunch and I'm going to go take a photo of this beautiful girl in front of whatever.
It oddly does hurt me though.
Oh, it does hurt you a little bit.
Get so much attention. I don't.
The cool thing is that you can look at it and go, it's trash.
That's a trash photo. That and car bumpers too. Car bumpers, people.
Car bumpers, interesting.
Car bumpers.
Yeah.
If you just look up car bumper on Instagram, 1 billion results will come back. I don't get it.
Taking pictures of them is what you're saying? Oh, interesting. You know, I'll have a theory. Let's analyze that, right? So I think because you are so advanced in photography and you have overcome the fear of approaching somebody and disclosing a story that might have never been disclosed if you didn't stop that person on the street, talk to that person, because you've done that work to be able to face mystery, this Pandora's box, which every human is a Pandora's box. And what are you about? And you open it up.
Terrifying to me to post is their car bumper.
Yeah.
Right.
You see how much value is in a photo of a human being that has so much story because you have the experience, you're personable, you make people feel comfortable, and you're going to the gold. You're going straight to the gold. Some people that don't, they want to use their camera. They don't yet have the comfort of walking up to somebody, talking to them, and snapping a photo.
So it's the trash can and car bumper.
It's exactly. So maybe that one day, they'll advance into the stories with the human. Like I think I'll relate to that, not to the extent of trash, but my old videos. A lot of my B-roll was inanimate objects. It was the easy thing. Like make this little tree look aesthetic.
Yeah.
Now I've been resorting to more humans, and even my B-roll, like human interaction in events, human facial expressions, a hand going somewhere. And I'm realizing that the source of emotion is human being. The only reason anything is relevant to anything the only reason you can connect to something visually is because of human emotion, human connection. If you eliminate that human connection, if that thing has no relevance to humanity, you're not going to feel anything. You're piggybacking off other people's emotions. So if you go to the source by filming or photographing a person, you hit the nail on the head.
Well, with humans, you are risking either rejection for yourself or something awkward with them, and there's more risk. But more risk, more reward, right? Somebody told me once years ago, and it took me a while to really process this because it's like a backhanded compliment. They said, emotionally, I live at the peak of Mount Everest, where I live in the deep end of emotions. But who lives at the top of Mount Everest? Nobody. You visit there and you come back down. And that's where I live. And it's too much. It's too much to stay in my aura or whatever, But,
yes.
But what do I do about that? I come down, there's people taking pictures of trash cans. And so that's a me problem, It's not that I think I'm better than anybody. My comfort is being in the most terrifying, uncomfortable places. That's where I'm most comfortable. I'm most comfortable being completely revealed and completely vulnerable, where that's most people's nightmare. Put me in front of 1,000 people to give a speech I've never even read. My heart rate doesn't go up. I know that's not common, but I like risk.
Yeah.
I like doing things that are difficult because where is the pride or enjoyment in doing something easy? So I get it. Dealing with people is tricky.
Yeah.
And you could get embarrassed or hurt or whatever. I want to be hurt. I want to, then again, I don't. I want to do my job right. But like before we started, we showed a video where I didn't successfully get somebody to do the photo, right? Very, very rare, but at least it's real.
Yeah.
The
realness of it. So ever since I picked up this concept of taking pictures of people in the street, I've been doing it in Orange very often, and I get asked a lot, like, why do you do it? Because there's no financial gain. Yeah. And I think although I took the framework from you, my motive has evolved into something new. Which is you said one side of it is, so you're pursuing story, and one side of it is the potential of rejection. I'm actually there to seek the rejection. Something about sitting there and asking somebody to take their photo and them going like they're on the phone and like, go away. You don't get to feel that you're in a very prideful place, living in California, middle class. You paying rent. You have a car. You're not taking the bus to anywhere. You're not asking anybody for anything.
Mm-hmm.
You are in a state of pride. Your ego is protected, and those are the few moments in my life where I get to feel like somebody's like, "Go away. You're annoying. I don't want you."
Yeah, you stepped out of your safety bubble of your car.
Yes.
Into the dark, dangerous, sad, risky world.
Yes.
But that's the Matrix. That's it. Do you want real, or do you want real and uncomfortable with extreme benefits but extreme downside, or do you want the Matrix where it's not real steak but it tastes like it is?
Yes.
And that's the difference between like I was just in Istanbul. Everybody's out on the street. There's nobody, you're in a crush of humanity, and there's smells, and there's a lot of suffering, and you don't just get to whiz by at 70 miles an hour,
Yes.
and that takes an emotional toll on you, but also it's real, and you're in it, so what do you want? I think that the downside of technology, I'm very fortunate I was born in the 70s, because I think having half my life pre-internet and half my life post-internet, I got to have enough of my life to where I was a sentient human being. I wasn't 9 when the internet came along. I had enough of my life where I saw what was good in the simplicity and the waiting and the reading a map, and nothing was instant, and then I had enough of a brain to enjoy the instant gratification of things, but also we've had about 20 years of it, and are we happier?
Absolutely not.
Are we less stressed? No. So I think 20 years is long enough.
Are we more appreciative?
No.
No.
And
Absolutely
we're
not.
so tender. Everybody's so tender.
Yeah.
One thing doesn't go their way, delete, done, never go back to that neighborhood again, whatever, right?
Right.
Which is why your experiment is so important. You have to create resilience. If you're not being given resistance, naturally, right?
Absolutely.
So I think where we're at in history right now is, and I think I was very grateful for the shutdown, the COVID shutdown, because I remember about month 2, I couldn't find yeast in a store. I thought, oh my God, it's amazing. People are baking bread. When's the last time there was no yeast in a store? 1958, but then the minute the doors open again, then everybody just forgot about all that. But I think 20 years of instant gratification and easy life at the expense of our resilience and our thin skin is enough for us to step back and say, okay, we've seen what this has to offer. Let's dial it back a little bit. That's what was so amazing about beyond the air being clean and dolphins jumping around everywhere, like in month 6 of the COVID shutdown, was people were walking and going to the park, and playing Frisbee. Free things that were so satisfying, but there's so much noise. And again, being intentional, you have to be willing to step back and go, I'm being drawn into this madness. Is that really what I want? I'm going to take a step back and do simple things. I think we've had enough to where it's nice to have gadgets. It's nice to have, instant this and faster internet, blah, blah, but not at the expense of our mental health, right? And it's no coincidence that, and this is why it's so difficult being my age, because it's not just 20-year-olds who are walking around like this with their face in their phone. It's people my age who knew how good life was before all this. And I always say, nobody's immune to drugs except for what's the guitarist from Rolling Stones?
Jimi Hendrix?
No.
No.
I'm so embarrassed. I forgot his name. The guitarist from who is the wrinkly face. He's the only person who's really immune to drugs. All of us have the drugs being streamed in on our phones. And I'm as guilty as anybody else. But I try as hard as I can to have some restraint. But I was just in Rome, and it's the most beautiful place almost on the planet, and it's just selfie sticks and people doing little TikTok dances, and right in front of the Pantheon's there, but that's 5th on their mind. It's I think the biggest difference between the algorithm, which I think is evil, is that prior to social media, in order to be seen on any sort of media, you have to either be an actor, a newscaster, or to have anybody read anything you said, you have to have like a journalism degree and get a syndicated article, column somewhere, right? Now, everybody on the planet is the producer of a pretty boring, lame TV show. But they don't understand why the Rizzler has 1 billion followers and they don't. They don't understand that the Rizzler is, if the internet didn't exist, he would be on TV. You know, he'd be in the 1% of people that did that because they just have that thing. People who create, like Mr. Beast, he would just be a television producer.
Right.
Right? It's not, they make it look like it's just they're stumbling upon this thing. They're brilliant producers, you know? So
that's a unique perspective.
There's this expectation that I should be famous or people should hear what I have to say. No, you're just be happy that your husband's a plumber and you have a house,
right?
And you have a job and you're you know, even if you have fresh running water, you're doing better than 2/3 of the planet. What is this expectation that you need to have 1 billion followers on anything? You know, where did this come? It's drugs. It's just drugs. You know, and 20 years is enough for us to have an intervention on all of us that it's clear this is doing nothing for me, you know? And meanwhile, I've deleted half my friends because they don't have one view different than me, right? I've eliminated everybody who challenges the way I think even a little bit. That's not sustainable.
Absolutely.
Right? But it's having this idea of intentional hardship, which sounds counterintuitive, right? Why would I make things hard? Because that's how you grow. Yeah. That's how you become tough. Having only people who agree with you, having only digital friends, you're not going to survive. And what a coincidence, we're not making enough babies because nobody has enough hope that there's going to be a future. And this all happened in the last 20 years, probably the last 15 years. It happened quick. And I being my age, I've been able to observe it. Kind of like when I was with the girls, when I was, 20 years old, not being a threat, I'm watching everybody just jump off a cliff. And this is actually something I've been thinking about a lot lately. If you have somebody in your family or somebody who you love who's in a cult, how do you tell them they're in a cult and have them not delete you? It's very tricky. Or if you've had an intervention on somebody who's a drug addict, how do you say, hey, you're a drug addict without them going, well, I'm not going to know you anymore. Right. Right? There is a way, but you can't hammer them over the head with it. Right? Almost everybody we know is a drug addict and suffering the depression, the loneliness, the no hope in the future. These are all the results of being a drug addict, right? So when somebody's in the real thick of it, somebody who's not addicted, or maybe you're only less addicted, how do you intervene without driving them further away? It is possible, but it's delicate. And this is the language I've been working on. Well, it's kind of, you asked me earlier, how did I get my son to take the path I wanted him to take? I broke down the English language and I thought about how do you go in the side door of our subconscious to just get right to the result. And it's almost like hypnotism where, do you guys know anything about hypnotism? Didn't you have something to do with hypnotism at some point in your life?
Of course you did you?
No?
I mean, I've been hypnotized in like street theft, like getting things stolen from me.
Okay, so here's how hypnotism works.
What?
Here's how hypnotism works. You say, I don't want to smoke anymore. And then what happens without a hypnotist is you go, but I might gain weight, but it'll be difficult, but I'll Jones for it, but, right? What a hypnotist does is says, I don't want to smoke anymore. And they just leapfrog you past all of those buts and you just do it. You're not unconscious. You're not without self-control. You just skip past over all the buts. That's what we need to do with this addiction to social media and this expectation of a life that we don't have is I'm not happy. That's everybody can admit how many people who are stoked on life do you know right now? It's a very small group. In the 80s, it was almost everybody. In the 90s, it was damn near everybody. Everybody was pretty stoked to be alive. Now we had grunge because we had angst, but it wasn't misery. You know, we were present. And so I think we need almost like a mass hypnosis to say, we can all agree that we're unhappy. Now, what people want to do is blame. Oh, it's because of Democrats. It's because of Republicans. It's because of fascists. It's because of anti-trans, whatever. Those are the buts. What we can all agree on is we're not happy. What we can all agree on is that we look at our phone way too much. We can all agree that we have an expectation of a life that we don't have. But what we do have is each other, right? I think we need a mass reset to where we don't have to completely reject all technology, but I think we should have as many hours with our friends as we do our phones. And you don't even have to really do anything. Just being around somebody who gets you, or just even the sharing of like sense and seeing the look on somebody's face when you say something versus lol. You know, I think back to 2007. I'd been on Facebook for 6 months. I wrote this long thing saying, this is BS. This is not sustainable. A poke isn't a handshake, and a lol isn't a hug, and this isn't going to work. And so if you want to know me, you have to call me. And nobody called. This is 2007. And so I came back probably 6 months later because I was out in the abyss. Nobody called. I didn't know where the parties were, you know? So I had to get the needle back in to try to manage. And so I've been, you know, not very successfully, but I've been trying to integrate in a world of mass addiction. It's very difficult because I'm an empath, and when I see suffering, I absorb all of it. And now I'm in a world of where almost everybody's suffering, but it's needless suffering. It's not like it's the government or it's, you know, the lack of money. People complain about money, but the poorest person in America is in the 1% of the planet. You know, it's all relative. So I think we need a hard reset on our expectations, and just to remember that first month of COVID where you were just with your family, or you were just walking, or you're going out and oh, here's the sun. I haven't seen that in, 4 years since I got this office job, And that's the other thing too, not to go on the longest rant of all time, but I think we need to go back to understanding that we're animals and we're designed in a way to interact with the earth, not a damn phone. And there's a reason why our body reacts when the sun rises and the sun sets. And there's, what's it called? Circadian rhythm. That's not an accident. That was hundreds of thousands of years that set up this program. Yeah. And you can't just change everything overnight and expect that you're going to do okay. Even just take away the emotional part, your body is going to break down. And when your body breaks down, your emotions break down. Something as basic as just watching the sunrise changes your life. I remember, because my house was right on the beach. I remember I'd walk across the street and we'd be watching the sunrise, and I'd post, "Get out of your house. What are you doing? There's nothing on TV as good as this," right? But it's beyond, it's pretty, it's necessary as an animal who lives on Earth to watch the sunrise and watch a sunset. But with all the noise, Mr. Beast, whatever, the Rizzler, I mean, those are probably outdated terms at this point. I don't know who is that,
They're still on the top.
Yeah. Okay. Are they?
Yeah.
They're doing all right?
Yeah, they're doing good.
But their heroine and the sunset is bombing down a wave. They both give you a high. One just takes more work. Slightly more work. Not even, but without any crash. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But again, this all goes back to, you have to like yourself.
Yes.
In order to have the courage to buck the system.
Yes.
But I think it's so obvious at this point that society isn't working. And it's not because of all the monsters who you're told. It's not Putin, it's not Netanyahu, it's not Trump. It's always somebody horrible in those positions. Your friends aren't senators and congressmen. They're not making the laws. Who cares? They think there's a different pathway to whatever than you do. we have so much more in common. And, you know, and I think this is the thing that's really been the biggest struggle for me watching society crumble, is that the solution is so simple. It's just this.
Right.
You know, but this isn't as loud. It doesn't have the size of megaphone is the algorithm.
Earlier you said that sometimes people need to hit rock bottom in order for their eyes to open. And sadly, it's like so true, because it happened to me. I hit rock bottom, and now that I have this second chance of life, even just me riding my bike to catch the sunset at the beach is so therapeutic to me. Like, I will do my best to go and do that because it just feels so good to see it and the beauty of what God has created. And I feel like people that have never hit rock bottom don't understand that feeling, you know, because they don't know what it is to feel like to be in the hospital bed and almost like, am I going to make it or not?
Right. I think one of the things that, you know, there's all sorts of hacks that people like to, people want the shortest path to, you know, success. Yeah. But there is a hack, and it's something I use. You know, you met me right after I had been cured of an illness. And the way I had an infection in my gut my whole life, which caused me to look bad, you know, but also have depression and all kinds of other things. And when I found out that the thing in my body was a living thing that actually compelled my thoughts to feed it things that would help it survive, that was the trick. I said, oh, if I feed you, you'll survive, so F you. It became a spite. It was spite that got me to cure myself in record time, because if I had a desire for sugar, if I had a desire for bread, if I had a desire for anything that would inflame my body, I said that's the monster asking for that. I want you to die. And that's how we need to look at social media and the drugs of social media is, you're killing me. You know? Yeah, you are a constant barrage of all the dopamine, but at some point you have to recognize that it's killing us. It's killing friendships. It's killing families, you know? There used to be this rule pre-social media that there's 3 things you don't talk about: religion, politics, and abortion. Because everything else we all pretty much agree on.
Right.
Don't steal from me.
Right.
Don't punch me in the face. I want good food. I want to have money. I want to have rest. Everybody agrees on what we want out of life. If you just don't talk about those 3 things, then we'll all get along.
Yeah.
What are the only 3 things people want to talk about now?
Those things.
Yeah. And society's being destroyed.
Yeah.
Right? And so it just has to be a little bit of willpower. But those things, you get a rise out of somebody, right? Oh, I get to show them I'm superior to them.
Yeah.
I'm more righteous than you.
Yeah.
Right?
Unfortunately, it works, man. And people just use that to get some sort of interaction from the majority of people. Rage baiting is real. Right. And I like so dislike when people actually take the bait of rage bait and they're just like, well, I'm like, clearly, come on people, like, have some common sense. They're doing it to get you to do exactly what you did. Right. Just don't give them that energy.
But you know, I think back to this TED Talk I saw years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And there's this guy who was a undercover operative in the CIA who was in bed with all different terrorist organizations throughout his career. And he said there's one common denominator between every single terrorist organization he was ever involved with. They all believed they were righteous in what they were doing. None of them thought that they were, let's go be the worst people today. Let's make the world terrible. They all believed in their heart of hearts that they were doing the righteous thing. And the rage people, now cliques probably do override their priorities than their ideology. But at the end of the day, they think by exposing somebody who takes the rage bait is lifting them up, but it's not, right? But they are righteous. Look at me show this libtard. Let me expose this MAGA. You know, it's not helping anybody. And it's so funny because I've actually mentally prepared to have somebody come try to rage bait me on the street during some interview. And I want to always find that language to get through to them. I want to say, if you could have everybody instantly believe what you believe, but you got 0 views, would you hit that button? And you find out what their priorities really are at that moment.
Yeah.
True. Right?
Wow.
You know, if you're really righteous and you're not, you know, working the system, mutually assured destruction for everybody, take away all your views, but all of a sudden they're MAGA like you are, they're, on the left like you are, but you got no attention for it. And this is going back to talking about street photography. One thing that kind of drives me nuts is people who film everything they do when they're giving money to a homeless person. Like a little bit gross.
Yeah.
Or there's a couple very popular street photographers. They film with the POV glasses going up to a girl and blah blah. And I just think that that's the drug part of it. Would they still do it if nobody knew?
Yeah, right.
And that's how you know. That's how you know if you're righteous.
So I'm glad you brought this up because I struggle with that. So my struggle is this: I grew up with and I know it's in the Bible. I just don't know exactly where, but it talks about
Keith Richards.
Oh, the guitarist. The guitarist.
I'm so sorry.
No.
It popped in.
No, and that's what it is.
I didn't want to derail you.
Yeah.
Keith Richards.
That's so funny.
Let's pull that back in earlier.
Keith Richards.
That's so funny.
So, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Go ahead.
So I know it talks about like do things in secret and God will bless you and stuff. So I've done that. Probably the only eyes that see me do it the most is my fiance and God. That's it. But I've also been inspired to like people like Mr. Beast, where he does a lot for people.
Yeah, sure.
And he films it, but he shows us, and it makes me want to do something in that sense. And so then I fight with that idea of like, I've already done it with no eyes seeing me.
Yeah.
I want to do it more so now with eyeballs seeing it because I've been inspired by someone that has done it. And I would like to also inspire the next person that wants to, bless whoever is in need of something.
Yeah. Philanthropy is tricky that way.
Yeah.
Because without anybody seeing you do it, then how are you sharing the message other than to like the one person or the 5 people or the 10 people you feed or whatever you do, right?
I mean, for me personally is because I have that relationship with God, and I know that if I do it with his eyeballs only seeing it, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because the blessings are going to come to me in some way.
Right.
So to me, I feel like I have my answer of like, I've already done it with no eyeballs looking at me. And so, but I want to help inspire someone else that wants to do something like this and be able to do it as well.
I mean, there's definitely, it's not a hard no for me. I mean, obviously I've filmed my interactions, but it's not like I was trying to like, show how awesome I was or anything like that. My purpose in showing this is that people aren't so scary, or that everybody has a story, or even the most beautiful girls are vulnerable, or whatever. That kind of break down ideas that people had about whatever. Philanthropy is tricky, especially in the clip era, right? But that's kind of how the devil works too. Is nobody wants to be a meth head, right? But there's meth heads running around all over the place. It started with that first pipe. What if you get a video that goes viral and you wake up one day and you're kind of out of control with the ego of the whole thing, and somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I think you're kind of out of control." Are you going to receive that?
Right.
It's very tricky.
Those are questions I ask myself as well. Like if I have a video, am I going to be itching for the next one?
Yeah.
And I really hope that I'm not. I hope that I am very like aware that, hey, it's okay that the next one doesn't. Just continue to be who you are and the reason why you started posting.
Yeah.
The reason you started posting wasn't for you to get paid or get views. It's for you to help someone. Or when I was going through what I was going through, videos on YouTube helped me feel happy just that much. But that much helped me out so much to feel joy.
I think maybe, and this is just off the top of my head, vowing to never look at comments or views.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
You don't look at comments, you don't look at views.
Right.
You erase it from your brain. You just make it and put it out there.
Yes.
And that's maybe the only way you can get through that without the real temptation of the drug.
Yeah.
Right? You just can't look.
Yeah.
Because you see a negative comment, that's what it is. You see a positive comment, but that's the drug. I'm so awesome.
Yeah.
Right? It's all bad.
Yeah.
It's all bad.
The one thing I'm working on is remembering that I'm doing it for the love of it, because it takes so much time and effort to do these videos that we do. But then there's a very pretty girl that just points her phone on her face and just does a lip sync of something and gets 100 times more views and likes and comments, and you're just like, man, what am I doing? But it's like, remember, you're not here for that.
Right.
You're here because you love doing it, and someone is going to appreciate all that hard work.
So I have kind of a hot take on the pretty girl who gets 1 million views.
Okay.
I spent my entire life with the most beautiful women on the planet, in my job. And I understand why they have that effect on people, because when you're around somebody who's so symmetrical and their skin is so smooth and their nose is so petite, or their lips are so full and their eyes are so big and their waist is so small, or whatever it is. Or like when I've been around celebrities, I spend a lot of time around celebrities, even celebrities who aren't known for being good looking. Just witnessing somebody who's so beautiful just makes you feel kind of high. That's the muse, right? Now, what you don't see is that they live in constant terror of getting a scar or a blemish or a handicap or going gray or getting a wrinkle. But they know deep down that the clock is ticking on how long they're going to have this value, right? And so it's a double-edged sword. Right. And I've interviewed a lot of really beautiful girls saying, do you think that your beauty has brought you more joy or more struggle? And it's about 50-50. Because a lot of people don't know how to handle, they just grab or they insult, or they want to say something degrading just to, there's this really interesting thing that I've witnessed a lot over the years, being around, spending in the company of very beautiful women out in public, is people wonder why men are so cruel in comments and in real life, violent towards women. And the truth is because a guy can walk around feeling like he's tough, or he's muscular, or he's smart, or he's wealthy, or whatever. And then a girl like this comes along and he just goes starts stuttering, and he wants to get that power back that she took from him, which she's not even aware she's doing anything to him.
Right.
But he wants to take that power back somehow. So he can do that one of 3 ways: either hurt her, possess her, or hide her away from the rest of the world. Right?
Wow.
It's very rare that somebody wants to nurture that, because the first initial reaction is like you made me feel weak.
Yeah.
Right. So that girl who all she has to do is a little wiggle or whatever, it makes a clothes haul or whatever, something lame and basic like that. It's a double-edged sword, because their beauty is extremely powerful, as we see in the advertising and everything.
Yeah.
But it's also the thinnest layer of shield and protection that can exist. It's a very precarious way to live.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love beautiful girls a lot. But I've also seen the other side, and I understand why they get the views.
No, yeah, I do too. I'm just saying we work a little harder.
No, I know. And so again,
it's a reminder of like, you do it for the love, not for.
Or you have to find a value. There's a saying that women are born valuable, men create their value. And that's exactly what this is. Yeah. Right? You don't just get to show up with your face and boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. What do you got to offer?
Women are born to be protected.
Yeah.
And doors open for them because, they make us feel lovely about just being in their presence.
Yeah.
Men have to create that value with hard work and dedication and a knowledge and willpower, right? And so you have to find what about your content has that same effect on somebody, that same muse quality. What inspires, what makes somebody feel like they have to watch your stuff. That's is sort of hypnotic is their symmetry. Right. And it's hard. But again, what's the rule with things that are great? It's on the other side of something difficult or terrifying.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you want to be mediocre, just follow the algorithm. Let AI choose your keywords for you, or create the cuts at the current trending rate, but that's empty, right? We weren't born being a 20-year-old gorgeous girl with long blonde hair, right? So we have to create that value, which at the end of the day is still going to be with you when you're 67 years old. they're not going to have that.
Yeah.
Right.
How robust is that? That you're like 65 and you pull up to an event in a power suit and everyone's like, when you walk in and you're 65 years old, you're an ugly old man, right? Not old, but like, let's say you are an ugly old man, but you built this power, you built this empire, and no level of ugliness can take that away from you.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, it's like, how is he so captivating when visually he's not offering you anything?
Just to celebrate memes a little bit, there is a really brilliant meme. It's a really young girl with a perfect body in a bikini with a fat old man in the ocean. And it says, "This is the inspiration for my daughter to go to college. And this is the inspiration for my son to go to college."
Wow. That's huge. Yeah.
And that's one of those memes that is strangely so spot on and brilliant.
And it reveals a lot of truth.
Yeah. It's meant to be funny, but it's so accurate. You don't want to be that girl. You don't want to be that, and you want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's what's so interesting about the meme life we live in is I don't think people realize that there's actually meme factories. I actually know somebody who works in a meme factory.
Wow.
And they're not dumb people. That's the propaganda of World War II, and there's real
meme-like things, meme-like little cartoons, and meme-like. It's not a small thing.
It's what drives narratives. And because it just slips into your unconscious. While you were just scrolling, that's getting in there, and it's created by people who know what they're doing, and they have a very clear direction they want you to go. Yes. And that's why it's so important, again, to have this revolution of stepping back. The meme shouldn't have more impact on you than your friends, right? On how you think of the world. Because if you look at the internet, it's a dumpster fire. To return back to dumpsters, which I have a disdain for. That's called a callback right there. Your friends, while flawed or maybe having different opinions than you, they're not a dumpster fire. They're the people who've seen you when you were 15 years old, or they've seen you when you got broken up with and they're still there, They might not have the instant dopamine delivery that, doom scrolling does, but they have the sustainability, and the simplicity. Everything, it's like my cooking. 4 ingredients tops, that should be what the scroll in your brain is. Friends, family, food, nature.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
So scrolling is like consuming processed information.
That's exactly
versus
right.
raw information.
It's craft cheese. Yeah. That's one thing. I don't want to be that American who's lived in Europe and American. But I mean, the food is poison here.
It is.
And the media is poison. But it's everywhere and it's hard. And if you're tired and hungry and that's what's available, you have to do that extra work to step away from the doom scroll and maybe cook your food.
Yeah, I think right now, the theme of this new year for me is going to be slowing down and pulling back, because I realize that I'll talk to you like a zealot about how everyone's caught in the rat race, and I'll sit here and entertain this conversation and absorb it, but I am just as caught up in the rat race as everybody else.
Because you're doing this during the week and working other stuff on the weekend. What's your downtime?
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I've recently come to this epiphany that like my body's been trying to tell me something, and I realize it's that there's this cognitive dissonance. I'm dissociating from my theory, which says that, the majority of America is caught up in politics and making money in the rat race. Don't they know they're going to die? You could die at any time. But I'm on the other side. Yeah. And it's like the fact that I can be so conflicting is fascinating to me as a human being. Like, I can talk about the rat race of society when I'm leading the forefront of that race and I'm running and like rent, make more money, get rich. When am I going to make my first million?
I call it the strip club syndrome, where
I love that.
So let's say that you're a 20-year-old girl and you decide to go become a cocktail waitress at a strip club, right? And you make your $80 a night. But then the girl who's not as good looking as you goes up and does amateur night and she made $250 in 20 minutes. And she didn't even take her clothes off. And you've been working this place for maybe 2 months. So it's all starting to seem very normal to you. Well, damn, I could go do that and I'd make more money. So you go do, get on the pole without taking off your clothes. Then the girl who took off her top, she made $400 that night. And you think, well, it's just a top. Nobody's touching me. It's just boobs. So now you're doing that. And then a couple months later, oh, the girls who are doing lap dances are making $1,000 a night. And when you live in that world, it all becomes normalized and you lose perspective, right? When you're in the rat race, and especially in Southern California, it's so hard not to compare. You know, everything in California is about showing what you have, right? But it's total BS. There's more fake millionaires in Orange County that have no cash and everything is leased and rented, you know, but and they're killing themselves to impress who? Nobody cares, right? And so there's this, I know this girl, and I hope she doesn't know that it's her I'm talking about, but she was the prettiest girl in high school, and she married a rich guy, a guy who became rich, and she was in this giant house, and he's miserable. He's a miserable bastard. Comes home tired, angry, doesn't want to hang out with the kids, you know, miserable human being. You can't talk to him for the first hour he comes home. And they have this big, gorgeous house. And I asked her, I said,
Let's pause for one quick second.
Soundproofing can only be so.
Yeah, if the frequency of an ambulance is unstoppable.
So she was going on and on about how you can't talk to him for an hour after he gets home. And I said to her, how many square feet of your house would you give up if when he came home, he was happy, said, come on, kids, let's go play with the ball. Let me help you with the dishes. Let me cook dinner with you. She goes, half. Then do it. She wouldn't do it. Because in Southern California and in the United States, you're somehow losing if you have less square footage than you did the year before. They can't visualize the happiness. They can't visualize the peace. If your car has an $800 a month payment, how many hours of your life is that?
Right.
So if you had a car that cost $7,000, ran just as good, you pay it off and you never have to think about it again, but you get 10 hours back a week. How is that not automatic math? But when you're in the strip club, you don't see that you're more miserable making $1,000 a night than you were making 40.
Wow. That's a brilliant theory, man.
So that's why it's important to step outside the strip club, look at it and go, this is where I live right now.
Yes.
Is this what I want? That's social media. That's politics.
Yeah.
It's all of it.
Yeah, I love the way you describe that with the way it's a gradual process and you lose references and you end up naked.
Well, because you're so stoked to have so much work, right?
Yeah.
You're so stoked. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I don't have to be a dentist.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
But then you wake up and you've been in the strip club and now you're on the downwards, trend.
Yeah. Funny thing that you mentioned this. So yesterday, a friend hit me up and he recently rented a truck to move a bunch of stuff somewhere. And he remembered how much he loves trucks. Right? And today he calls me. He's like, I gave back the rental car. Let's go to the car dealerships in the area and just walk around and take a look at cars. I have right now an SUV Honda Pilot, which is a drastic upgrade from my old little Honda. That there were times where not only was it not functional, but like it wouldn't fit the amount of equipment that I had. I would have to unbolt the passenger seat.
I remember.
Just to put things in there, right? And the car that I have right now, it's a Honda. It's still like a sub $10,000 car that I buy in cash.
Yeah.
But it fits, like it's making me so happy. I've honestly, from the way I feel, I feel like I will not need to upgrade my car in 100 years. Right. That's how much it's solved the problem for me.
And you keep it incredibly clean, by the way.
Thank you so much, brother. Yeah. Thank you. And yesterday we go to this dealership and we're walking around and I don't even think we're going there for him, right? And we're walking around and I see this Mercedes SUV and I'm like, damn, it's so beautiful. But like, I just don't see how I would ever use that. And he goes like, but don't you think, your clients, like when you show up, this is that. And we walked through it and it was all valid. Like it wasn't him being superficial.
Yeah.
It actually does leave an impact, having that more expensive car, blah, blah. And at the end of that 10-minute conversation, I was sold on getting a new car and putting this payment, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, damn, it was that easy to derail my whole philosophy and steal the joy that so much, like, I appreciate how much I love my car right now because I had to suffer to appreciate the space. And now I got the space. Like I love this effect that I have this. And it was stolen from me in a 10-minute conversation.
Well, listen, you have to go back to the math of risk versus reward. And the simple way is pros and cons, right? But I live by risk versus reward. The reward of having a really nice Mercedes SUV is the impact you would have on your clients. The pride you would have is being somebody who could afford that. It will go for another 10 years and it's an amazing car, right? But let's look at those first two benefits. That's pride, right? And at the end of the day, your work is what sells you, not the car you show up in.
Yes.
And there's this funny thing. I just spent some time last year with some Silicon Valley people, and the flex in Silicon Valley is looking like the biggest hobo in the room because they have all the money in the world. So how do you flex? I'm going to look like trash, right? It's all relative. And there's a fine line too where you can actually kind of look like a douchebag showing up in a car, like that. Like, you really think this makes you look like a better person?
Yes.
And it's actually kind of badass to be an amazing filmmaker and show up in a beat sub $10,000 car. Because, oh, wow, you actually have your priorities straight, right?
Yes.
You can sell it any different way. But the risk of getting that car is less money, more stress, right? What if you wreck it? What if somebody dings it? I have this really beautiful 67 Mustang that I rebuilt for my son.
Wow.
Gorgeous car. It was my first car. I rebuilt it for my son.
Wow.
And people ask me, why do you drive that almost every day? I said, because I built it to drive it, not to rub it with a diaper and look at it. If it gets dinged, it gets dinged. I want to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? But when you have a car like that, you're driving around in fear all of a sudden. And that's one of those secret things you don't know. Like the famous Jim Carrey saying, I wish everybody could get rich and famous so they see it doesn't solve any of their problems. That's that expensive car. The things you don't see is that you're constantly, you park at the end of the parking lot away from everybody like a weirdo, because you're terrified of every minute if somebody's going to ding it or steal it, or somebody who hates rich people is going to throw paint on it or key it. And now all of a sudden you're a slave.
Absolutely.
Right? So consumerism is another real tricky thing. I like stuff, but I sold my giant house to move to a mobile home because it's right. Catalina was, you can see it from my doorstep. And I told my son, who at the time was on the soccer team with all these little rich kids from Newport Coast, I said, you watch, when they come over here, they'll see the contrast between their lawyer dad who makes $1 million a year, who's never home, and us who have dinner at our dinner table every night of your life. They'll see that, and they did. And he saw it. We walk on the beach every day of our lives. They have to drive here and pay for $15 for parking, but it's a humble little yellow mobile home.
Yes.
But our life was drastically better. Just the air when you pulled up to my house was amazing, right?
The food, the air, it's like a portal into a slower paced lifestyle where everything has flavor, everything has meaning, everything brings you joy.
But you have to curb your ego and realize that you're actually flexing by doing that. You're flexing by driving the sub $10,000 Honda.
Yeah.
Because you're broke out of the matrix.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of why I went to, when I left California, I went to Istanbul for 2 months because I wanted the opposite. People, just yesterday, somebody asked me, why in the hell would you go to Istanbul? Of all the places, there's so many beautiful places. I'm like, I live in the beautiful place. I live in the nicest 1% of Earth the Earth has to offer. I wanted the opposite of that. So maybe I didn't take it for granted. And man, Istanbul for 2 months is a uppercut to the jaw. It is rough there. And what I came back realizing is that I don't want Istanbul and I don't want Southern California. I want someplace kind of in the middle where it doesn't have to be intentional hardship. There's weather or there's bugs or there's something happening to where we have to be a community.
Yes.
We have to. This old lady needs me to help her shovel out her driveway. This person over here feels totally like it's reasonable to come over and ask me for a cup of sugar. Like that's not a weird thing to do.
Yeah.
If your neighbor came over right now, asked for a cup of sugar, you'd be like, what in the hell? That should be default setting as a human being.
Yeah.
We don't have a community here.
True.
Right? But we have perfect weather. And that's the drug. The perfect weather here is the drug. It allows you to have money pour from the sky, but it costs a lot. I get it. I get why it costs as much as it does to live here. I've always defended how much it costs to live here. Inflation I don't defend, but I understand, relatively speaking, why it costs $200 a month for an apartment in Istanbul and $3,000 here, right? I get it. But just like the strip club, when you live in it, you don't quite see, you need to step outside to see actually
what's going on.
Yeah, what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, the people that complain about it all the time, I'm like, man, you guys need to get out of this country because you guys are spoiled.
Exactly right.
You guys don't even know how good you have it, and you're crying about it. Is insane to me.
Well, it is insane, and that's why it's so important to travel, especially young.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you set the bar different. You want to find any different way to increase gratitude in your life.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I told you this, but there's this documentary, I think it's called Happy or Happiness. I think it's called Happy. It's about the guy who directed all the Jim Carrey movies in the 90s. And he went from being a sort of broke writer, making a living as a writer though, maybe $2,000 a month, to having tens of millions of dollars within a few years. He had mansions and art and girls running around in cars. And then he fell off his bike and got a brain injury and wanted to kill himself because he had an actual physical injury that wouldn't allow him to be happy.
Man.
And so before he killed himself, because he's an intellectual, he wanted to go around the world and see who's the happiest people in the world. And he found his people who live in these little tin huts, who spend the most time with their family. They're the most grateful for anything they have and for any extra they have. They get an extra, 10 grains of rice. So the most grateful for that. And they wake up with the least expectations of what they are going to have that day. And that's an extreme example, but you can accomplish that here. You just have to stop expecting to have your channel go viral, or that some politician making some decision actually affects your life far more than it actually does. You just have to rein it back. Stop, because rage is very addicting because it's an instant spike in emotion.
Yeah, right.
And most people don't know how to, we're creators. We create emotion and we have passion. A lot of people are passionless. Doesn't mean they're worthless, but the greatest night of their life is the Dancing with the Stars finale. They get high emotion from being angry or scared or sad, and that's all fed to them, in the streamline of social media. As somebody who's an intellectual, who has a good brain and who's also creative, we can break out of the matrix, and it's not that difficult. But you do have to understand that people aren't going to get you so much, and that's the price you pay.
Yeah.
You're eating the slop in the matrix, outside of the matrix. But it's worth it.
Yeah,
100%.
I'm currently reading a book called The Psychology of Money, and there's a little story that he's there's this. They're at a party at this wealthy guy. And there's two buddies like me and Leo. And let's say Leo's very wealthy as well. And I'm telling Leo, hey man, this guy has so much more, he's made so much more money than you, faster than you, and he's still building it. And the response, let's say Leo's response would be, yeah, but he'll never have something I already have. It's like, what's that? Enough.
Yeah.
And that's, I feel like some people just don't understand.
Well,
when is enough?
That goes back to that Jim Carrey quote. It's like, what is enough? I've always wondered, people who are billionaires, I get it. They're creating jobs and building things, rocket, whatever. I get it. But what drives them at a certain point? Especially if you're Elon Musk, I get he's making rockets and
he wants to go to Mars. Yeah,
incredible. Right? He's making something. But people who are just hedge fund managers, after you have, let's say, 500 million, what is their drive to keep going? It's just pride. It's that if they start having less or making less, their entire foundation for their value is based on that.
Well, it's also, and I'm sorry to cut you off, it talks about it in that book where it's for example, us in our circle, if I was that person where it's I want to keep reaching levels, I am comparing myself to Leo and whoever is the next guy of I want to make more than this person. The hedge fund manager, he's surpassed us.
Yeah.
He's looking at Bill Gates, he's looking at, and so they're trying to reach this, but it's
but he's not seeing that his kids are being raised by nannies.
Exactly.
His wife's probably banging the gardener.
Yeah.
And it's at the end of the day, why do we lose it? It's
Right.
perspective again.
Right.
You know, he's living in the strip club, right? And how does he convince his family? Honestly, though, if you have like a 7-year-old, you know, having had a kid who was 7, if you ask them, would you rather have me home and want to play with you on the weekends or have a giant house?
Oh, right.
What 7-year-old chooses the house?
Yeah.
You know, it's not, you know, that's what's so crazy about living in Southern California where there's so much money,
Yeah.
you know, is that you get blinded so quickly. And I'm so grateful that I just never had that, you know, I just, but again, I paid for it socially, you know, people think I'm a snob or I'm unrelatable or I think I'm better than them or I don't want to do basic things like go drink. You know, I want to talk.
Yeah.
I want to cook.
Yeah.
And that requires a certain emotional investment that people who are just used to boom, 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 they want to go have the thoughts driven out of their head. That's a lot for them, you know? So you're always going to pay a price, but at the end of the day, you know, you're right on the verge of getting married and having a family. This is the talk you need to have with her long before that baby comes. Like, what are our priorities? What's our end goal? Because once your kid comes, it's not that your life is over, but the purpose of your life changes.
Right.
And in an instant, it's about this person's well-being.
Yeah.
You can still do things for yourself, which you should. But at the end of the day, working yourself to death, being exhausted, making yourself sick, being stressed doesn't benefit your kid.
Right.
Moving 30 miles that way and working the same amount and having twice as much is, you know, kids, they'll take this is one thing you learn very quickly is that kids, and this is a you know, kind of a cliche, but it's actually true. Kids will always prefer the box that the toy came into the toy. And that's the thing, like country kids, like a lot of my family lives in the country. These kids just play in dirt.
Right.
You know, they play with corn stalks. They play, you know, they build forts and stuff. They're so much happier than the kid here who has a $2,000 e-bike who does wheelies and smashes. You know, there's a reason that they have all that rage because they're just given stuff without earning it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's something that you really need to kind of square because you don't want to all of a sudden get philosophical when she got used to having whatever.
Right.
Right? Because
It's a hard transition.
Yeah, I mean, we've been together for 15 years. So we've luckily been blessed with experiencing the 2-story house, the small little space.
Yeah.
And me and her are on the same page where we will take the smallest space over anything else at this stage in our lives because the bigger the space, the more spread out we are and we don't even get to be with each other. And then the closer we are, I'm like, dude, I would love to live in a space like this.
One advantage of the economy sucking is that the narrative of going into massive debt for a degree, people have become a lot more innovative, or they're just teaching themselves stuff, you know. And the trend of becoming a welder or a plumber or a mechanic is actually coming back because they have almost no debt and they make a ton of money right away. I think that, and I am an eternal optimist. I really do believe we'll end the 20s in like a roaring 20s type of thing because we can't be upset for this long. You know, we've really only been real miserable for like maybe the last 7 or 8 years. Prior to that, it was grumblings of misery, but the last 7 or 8 years have been pretty brutal. You know, even take away the pandemic. People have been just on this, you know, downward trend of happiness. They can't stay like that forever. Right. You know, we've been, even with as miserable as we are now, it is still the best time ever to be a human. You know, you get sick, you're not going to die right away. You have your leg broken, you're not going to die. There's food everywhere. There's water everywhere. You know, 100 years ago, even here, that wasn't the story. You know, this is the best possible time to be alive, including all the things that are terrible about society right now. So I really do believe people are resilient and that we will end this decade on an up note, on a high note, you know, that just being a flapper, you know, or just dancing or whatever, you know, just real simple stuff that will actually successfully buck the massive influx of bad information and evil algorithms and just disconnect. You know, my son, who's 20, his friends, yesterday they went and they just got kayaks without paddles and just 3 miles. They go hike. And he's the leader of their group. He's the biggest and strongest, and they feel safe around him. And what he says pretty much goes. But he found a group of friends that they spent hours in the ocean. Not, nothing to crap on video games, but it's a different experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And so his generation is actually giving me a lot of hope because they get it. They get that it's empty sitting in front of a TV or your phone, and they're out doing stuff. So. And he'll at the end of the decade he's going to be in his mid-20s, and he'll be the guy who's like the last 10 years. My friends are the ones who made everything on TV and all the music and all the stuff you hear. And in 5-10 years that's going to be him and his friends, and he gets it. And I think a lot of kids his age get it. They witnessed the 26 and 27-year-olds losing their mind over every little thing and saw how delicate they were, and they didn't want any part of that.
Yeah.
So I have hope, but it's any revolution is going to be uncomfortable,
Well, man, this has been
Amazing.
and I knew how unpredictable and how challenging it would be to guide this conversation because you have such a unique life. You've built this empire of wisdom, experiences, perspectives, philosophies. You're a free thinker, you're an author, you're an artist, you're a traveler, you're a vagabond, you're a father, and you just and because of the way you live your life, you have so much to give. You're just a real human being that responds to reality in a very human way and doesn't look around and say, did everyone clap? Let me clap. Did everyone laugh? Let me laugh. And that's why, I knew this would be hard to guide, and I love that I have no control over this, and you just, your experience coming out, it can be a show, and we can do 20 of these, and it would still be engaging.
That's my life is controlled chaos. I don't want to know. Like they asked if I want to know I don't want to know the questions.
Yeah.
I think life would be boring if you knew I was coming around the corner.
Yes.
And going back to just very quickly, the very first letter that my son actually read, I was writing it as he was sitting in the tub. He was 7 years old. And he said, let me hear it. And it was a particularly dark one. It was really heavy. But it started with, I'm going to give you a list of good news. Life is a never-ending tidal wave of pain and sadness and hurt. But the challenge is to create a life so beautiful, it makes it worth forging through all that, right? You can't complain that life is difficult or that there's pain and there's suffering and there's injustice and blah, blah. The challenge is to make life, the brief, great moments so great that you have something to look forward to on the other side of the darkness, right? But in a world with more noise than ever right now, it's getting harder and harder to do that. That's why it takes a conscious effort to just unplug. Just unplug, call friends over, play freaking Monopoly, something lame. Play dominoes. Because you forget, that sustained us forever up until 15 years ago. People were more than happy to play spoons or rummy, or checkers or something like that.
Charades.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And simple. It's 3 ingredients: time, friends, and a game. But somebody's got to be the first one. It's like I always talk about the 8th grade dance syndrome, where girls are over here and guys are over here, and everybody's terrified. It takes the one funny guy to go out in the middle and do a thing, and everybody looks like a bunch of gazelle. Did he survive? And then they all come out, and within a minute, everybody's out there because they all saw that he survived. That's the revolution that somebody needs to unplug and thrive.
I love that.
And then we all need to observe them and go, oh, wow, they're actually doing better unplugged. I can make it unplugged. And then next thing you know, well, maybe I'll be a little more present. And that's what I'm hoping for.
I love it. And that's definitely the direction you took us in today. Definitely had me exploring the slowing down part, as you always do. And it's been so long since I've seen you. So it's very nostalgic and refreshing to feel these emotions again and remember what actually matters and the important. And I'm glad the audience get to experience that. That's really...
Well, and you're never done too. You have to constantly be evaluating yourself.
Yeah.
It's fine to get a little bit, live in excess, but you have to balance that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Excess is fine. It's a little bit of alcohol, it's not going to give you cirrhosis of the liver. But if you need it, then you're in trouble.
Yes.
Right. And if you think you need to work yourself to death, you're drinking yourself. Any air can kill you. Water can kill you. Anything in excess can kill you in sustained periods. Right?
Absolutely.
So,
well, thank you so much for being a guest on the Visionary Circle podcast. There's definitely going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 more of these, but it's going to be only of benefit to us and our audience. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you on the next episode.